My husband and I have had a rocky marriage and are going through a divorce. I have long suspected him of infidelity because he travels constantly, leaves at weird hours when home, and even had 3 different women file police reports against him a few years ago.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah,
Start there.
She slipped that one in.
And one other thing, just a 3, please. Anyway.
Charges got dropped, and I eventually believed he was a victim of a witch hunt and moved on. I needed some red wine to make some sangria and asked my daughter to get it out of my husband's room. She came back 10 minutes later and looked really worried. I asked her what was wrong, and she handed me a small pouch. Apparently, it was tucked between the liquor storage cabinet and the wall.
This is sketchy.
I confronted my husband about it this afternoon. He said that he had a confession. Said that he had a fetish for driver's licenses and would buy them from random women when he went on his work trips. He admitted it was bizarre, but said that there was something erotic about holding something that left someone else feeling so vulnerable. He also said that he would burn the driver's licenses in the furnace later that night. When I told him that I had given them to my lawyer already, he completely lost it. He packed some clothes, got into his car, and took off. Based on what he said and packed, I get the feeling he won't be coming back. I partly feel like he had a point that I shouldn't have compared his weird fetish to cheating or given his property away to my lawyer when it might be evidence of such.
I'm sorry. Wait, she did everything right. I mean, honestly, terrifying.
I would have called the cops, not the lawyer.
I would literally think that he was a serial killer.
Yeah.
Like, that is so scary.
Am I the asshole for not paying the pet sitter because they lost our cat? We hired our neighbor's 16-year-old son to take care of our dog and cat while we were out of town. He was supposed to let the dog out twice a day and keep an eye on the food and water. The cat is an indoor cat and he was to feed her. 2 days in, he lost our keys, so I had to give him the garage code so he could get in. We got home after 4 days and the cat was nowhere to be found. I called him and asked when the last time was he saw the cat. He told me that morning. Well, we knew the cat was gone and checked our security cameras. We saw her at 5:30 a.m. on the camera outside, so at a minimum, she had been out since the day before. I can see the history of when the garage opens and closes in our app, and he hasn't been there that early. I had also checked her litter box and it was pretty clean, so she was probably gone for 2 nights. When I told him the cat was gone, he did come over and offer to go look for her and took off in his car. Am I the asshole for not paying the pet sitter because they lost our cat? We saw him come back on our camera with a grocery store bag, so not sure if he actually went looking for her or not like he claimed. We left the door open overnight and she did come home and is fine. There was a good chance she couldn't have, as we live 1 street over from open space where a pack of coyotes frequent, and she's only 8 pounds, so a lot of other animals could have gotten her too. Here's the main part. We decided not to pay him. It's a pay what you want agreement, and given that we now need to rekey the house and he lost our cat, we didn't feel that he took his responsibilities seriously. And the bigger the mistake, the bigger the consequence. You may say, well, any job would have to still pay you. Yes, but they can also deduct or charge you for the cost of damages, which in this case will be more than what we would have paid him, and we aren't asking for it, just not paying him. Is this wrong?
Am I wrong for telling my sister she should have shaved before my engagement party? I, female 27, got engaged recently. We had the engagement party at a restaurant. It was paid by my future mother-in-law. My sister, 22 female, came with my parents. She is the type that lives by the body positivity concept, which is more than okay, but she tends to put me in situations where I find myself having to deal with people's reactions. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. She came to the party wearing a dress above the knee. My future mother-in-law and the other woman were staring at her legs constantly. Mother-in-law then pulled me aside and pointed out my sister's leg hair. I was completely baffled and quite shocked. She said it made her and other women feel uneasy and weirded out. I said I was sorry for how they felt and tried to stay calm, but I was mad from the inside. The woman continued to stare and my sister acted like everything was fine. I honestly felt like she caused disruption to the party. I brought it up with her later and told her about what the guests felt about her unshaved legs. She kept chewing her gum while completely acting like it was nothing. She said my future in-law women need to chill. I told her this was unacceptable and that she should have shaved before coming since it was my event and I had to deal with the looks and disruption from the women. My parents told me to get off her back and leave her alone. Then they left. My mom is now telling me to apologize for upsetting my sister after she came to share my happy moments. I told this to my fiance and he just kept laughing and making comments about us being ridiculous. Am I wrong here? I feel like she disrespected me and my guests. I honestly think this is not a big deal. If guys show their legs and they have hair, there's nothing wrong with it, but when a girl does it, it's considered gross. Explain that to me. Why? Why is that considered gross?
I, female 28, just found my husband, male 32, Word doc of the woman he slept with. There's more than he originally told me and women after me.
Wait, after dating or after they started talking? Because that's very different.
I was using my husband's laptop to do some work. I went to open a Word document and found one named personal. I opened it. It was a list of women. I looked at it confused, trying to figure out what this was. I thought he was keeping track of his ex's birthdays until I saw below mine and realized that this was a list of women he had slept with. We discussed sexual past and he swore multiple times I was the last woman he slept with. This is an even larger issue for me because we have had many issues in the past that have had to do with him lying.
Oh, done. No,
Done.
Divorce. I'm done.
Basically, you go in chronological order.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's names after is like,
Red flag. Run.
yeah.
RUN.
I met Jack when I was 19. We always ran in the same social circles, but it was never anything more than friendly. I'd just come out of a long-term relationship and wasn't looking for anything serious. He was also 6 years older than me. But after a night out, we actually ended up going home together. It was nice, but I wasn't keen enough to call him the next day or anything. 5 weeks later, I found out that I was pregnant. I was so nervous to tell him. This was a guy who was 25 and had slept with me once. What if he didn't believe me? What if he said it wasn't his? What if he wanted nothing to do with it at all? I eventually built up the courage to message him and ask him to go for a walk. I told him the news straight away. He was incredibly supportive from the moment I started talking. I know that sounds like the bare minimum, but I can't tell you how relieved I was. He never questioned me. He always trusted me. He told me whatever my choice was, he would support me in whatever way I needed. Eventually, we decided not to keep the baby. It wasn't the right time, and we didn't have the resources to look after a child in the way we wanted to. I think, though, that it was during all of those conversations that I actually sort of fell in love with him. Oh. He was so caring and he looked after me so well. He was already being a good partner before we were even a couple. We pursued a relationship after that. It was so easy and we found so much comfort in each other. I was so happy to have someone who loved me as me and who I loved back. He made my life so comfortable. I'd hear horror stories from friends in unhealthy or toxic relationships, and I always thought, thank God mine's not like that. He had always told me that in every relationship he had been in, he had been cheated on. It was pretty clear this was a complete non-negotiable for him. If I cheated, that would be it. He proposed to me at the end of 2021, and we got married pretty soon after. We went on our honeymoon and found ourselves in the ultimate love bubble. I feel like that was one of the happiest times of my life. 6 days after we got home from our honeymoon, I was on his phone. We were always really open about our phones. He uses mine, I use his. I opened up his lock screen to send myself something, and there it was. 6 days after getting home from our honeymoon, he was texting a sex worker trying to set up a meeting.
I'm angry.
My stomach flipped and I felt numb. There's no good time to find out your partner is cheating on you, but this one felt especially confusing. Our sex life had literally never been better, nor had our relationship. I immediately texted him and told him what I had seen. I was so embarrassed, though, that I couldn't kick him out. I couldn't demand he stay with someone else because I didn't want anyone to know. I was so ashamed of myself. Who had I married? Just weeks before, I had stood in front of everyone I knew and loved and told them loudly that this was the best person I knew, that this was the person, the one who would look after me forever. Now, some 5 months later, we're working through it with a therapist, but I'm still angry. The therapy is a drainer on my energy and my bank account, and I resent that we're only here because of the decisions he made. We still haven't told a soul.
Am I the asshole for eating my husband's entire birthday cake by myself? I'll preface this by saying that my husband's family and I don't get along at all. We're rarely ever on good terms, and for my mental health, I decided to put distance between us, especially after I was blamed for my most recent miscarriage. My husband can still see and visit them whenever he wants. My husband's 30th birthday was 2 days ago. I planned to celebrate with him. I bought a cake and a gift, but he said that his family invited him to celebrate his birthday and he really wanted to go because the birthday parties his family throw are like no others. We had an argument over this, but he told me to wait for him till he finishes celebrating, there with his family, then we could celebrate together at home and eat cake. I was so mad I took the cake and brought it to the living room and started eating from it. I ate the whole thing, not saving him a single piece. He came home and saw what I did and blew up.